I also believe in this notion that contemplation can lead to more effective action. And so meditation struck me as something that might bring here to the McDonough School of Business and see if we can find a way to make it part of our practice of developing leaders. And I'm also happy to see that there are faculty and staff as well as students.
Thank you, Dean Thomas, very much for your warm welcome and for the vision and the support that you've shown and the shared vision that we share together for this program. It's wonderful to be back at Georgetown. I taught here on several occasions, and things change, but things remain very much the same. So it's always interesting to come back to a place that you were part of and felt very happy in. I love teaching here. Why are we here today? Well, it's to do two things, really. One is to introduce the meditation program that we're going to begin today at the business school. And within that program, our intention is, first of all, to introduce people to meditation, just to say what it is. Even if you don't practice it, I think it's good to know what it is. It's better to know that there is a great continent on the other side of the Atlantic, even if you haven't visited it, because it changes your perception of reality and your map of the world. So I believe it's important to know about meditation, even if you don't actually go and visit that great continent of experience that is awaiting all of us eventually. The other purpose is to help those who do want to visit it, to those who do want to develop a practice, to do that, to develop a practice, and in fact a daily practice. And we'd like to offer you, and I'll say why we want to do this in a minute, but we would like to offer you some support in developing a personal practice of meditation according to your own needs and your own circumstances. Meditation is a good habit. Good habits take time to learn. It's easy to develop bad habits and quite difficult to get rid of them. But good habits take a little more work, but the best way of getting rid of bad habits is to develop good habits and let the good habits push the bad habits eventually out of the picture. And there are very good reasons for developing this good habit of meditation. You're more likely to be introduced to meditation today by a therapist or by a physician than you are by a monk or a priest. And the reason is that in the last 10, 20, 30 years, a great deal of scientific research has been conducted into the benefits of meditation from a physical and a psychological point of view. And all the evidence is piling up with one PhD after another, one neurological research program after another, showing us that meditation is good for you in both of those dimensions. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, it helps you deal with chronic pain, it boosts your immune system, it improves your cholesterol and your blood pressure, and the list is endless. The only thing it doesn't do is to restore your hair, which I can personally do. But apart from that, all the evidence is piling up that meditation is very worthwhile. Now, there's another reason for meditation, another whole field of reasons, which we could call the spiritual fruits. Of course, meditation didn't begin in the laboratory. Meditation began with human beings exploring their spiritual intuitions, developing spiritual traditions, and we find meditation at the heart of all the great spiritual traditions. And so this relationship between science and the spiritual wisdom of humanity is one of the big challenges, one of the big opportunities, I think, for us today. And it's, I hope that in the course of this program, if you stay with it, you'll see the opportunities for the resolution of our global problems, as well as for one's own personal fulfillment, in bringing these two fields of human knowledge and experience together, the spiritual knowledge and the scientific knowledge. To develop that good habit of meditation, you need some strength of character, because it involves a practice and doing it, not just talking about it or reading about it, but actually doing it. So it does require a certain amount of will, of course. You have to want to do it. And then, like other disciplines, like exercise or study or emotional disciplines, in fact, you have to practice at it. But I think you also need, and I certainly did and do, one needs external support. This isn't something that we do in an entirely individualistic way on my own. No one can meditate for you, that's true. It's one of those things where you have to accept full responsibility for it yourself. But on the other hand, no one can do it on their own either. And that tells us something about human nature and human relationships. Meditation, although it looks very solitary, and I can't meditate for you, and you can't meditate for me, but we can, and we do, find that people want to meditate together. That's very natural. And therefore, you could say there's something very relational about meditation. And the first level of your life where you will begin to experience the benefits and the fruits of meditation will be in your relationships. Beginning, of course, with your relationship with yourself. That's the basic relationship of all. And on the basis of your relationship with yourself, your own harmony, your own self-acceptance, being at peace with yourself, fulfilling your own potential, being free from compulsion or addiction. So that kind of relationship with yourself is going to immediately express itself in your relationships with other people, your personal, intimate relationships, your capacity for those, and also your professional relationships, how you work with people and get on with your colleagues. And it's this very relational aspect of meditation, very subtle, very simple, but very actual, that I think just explains why meditation is good for us in all aspects of our experience, in all aspects of life, including our professional life, our business life. So one of the first things that meditation teaches us is quite an important lesson in the modern world, in the modern culture, especially in the modern Western capitalist and consumerist society we've created, is that the idea that we are completely autonomous is a delusion. The fact that the idea that we are independent is simply an illusion that is going to lead us into some very serious mistakes. But what is meditation? We can use, I remember in a dialogue once with the Dalai Lama, he started laughing because he said, in the West, he said, people think that all you have to do to meditate is close your eyes and look sort of relaxed and you're meditating. And he said, meditation is more than that. And it is more than that. It's an entirely natural, simple, practical exercise, freely chosen. No one can force you to meditate, and freely pursued, freely practiced. It develops our human potential at all levels in the most humane and the most direct way. It's a very direct path. You go straight to the quick of your human being, your human potential, your identity. It goes right to the center of it. That living, highly sensitive and intelligent core of our human being. Meditation is about being, not doing. When I was teaching here a couple of years ago, I was speaking to one of my students at the end of the course, and she was telling me we used to begin each class with a 10-minute meditation period, which was the best way I had of actually getting the students to class on time. Because they really, I said, if you come late for the meditation, you should wait outside so as not to disturb the others. And they all liked meditation so much. In fact, I was slightly ambivalently flattered when they told me that meditation was the best part of the class. But she said to me, she's a very bright, intelligent, attractive girl, and she said, I come from a completely non-religious background. She said, not anti-religious, we've never been interested in it. And she said, but I'm beginning to, ask myself about God, about spirituality, these things which I never thought about before. And she said, I've begun to realize that I have an inner life. It was a wonderful discovery to make. And I thought in a way it was wonderful, in another way it might be a little sad that, you have to wait till you're 22 to realize that you have an inner life, but maybe better, late than never, and still not too late for her. So meditation awakens you to this dimension of yourself that is universal, but also totally personal and unique. Meditation is about being, not doing. It's not about achieving something. It's about realizing something. It's not about success, but about fulfillment. And it is not at all competitive. It's the complete opposite of competitiveness. Now, having said those three things about meditation, it's not about achieving, it's not about success, it's not about competition. You can see that as contemporary people in our culture, meditation poses some challenges to our conditioning, because this is how we're wired. And we have to unlearn or relearn some basic things before we're going to, get into this practice. But the practice itself is the teacher. Experience is the teacher. In the early Christian tradition, the early monks practiced meditation in a very simple way. And one of their great sayings is, experience is the teacher. So the practice of it itself will teach you what it is, and more. If our doing, if our activity, our work, all of that external projection and motivation that young woman, that young student here at Georgetown had obviously been absorbed by, she was, in other words, if she didn't know that she had an inner life, it was because she had become completely outer motivated. Success, outward experience, searching for things, doing things. If all of this doing in life is disconnected from that core of our being, then we end up berserk. We go, frankly, crazy. There are plenty of crazy people around, many of them in positions of great authority. And this disconnection between the inner and the outer dimensions of our lives ultimately makes us insane. It certainly leads to mental illness. And there's no doubt that mental illness is on the increase. We can be very rational and very efficient, and yet completely insane. A mass killer, a mass murderer, like we've seen too many examples of around the world, often plan their crazy rampages very efficiently, very carefully, very effectively. You remember that the terrible guy in Norway, at the end of his trial, he said his only regret was that he hadn't killed more people. So we have to be very careful, I think, about losing that connection with the inner world, that interiority. Otherwise, we act in a logical bubble. We worship efficiency for its own sake, or profit for its own sake, and in pursuit of an objectively insane agenda. So meditation is about being, not so much about doing. The quality of being comes before our doing, and it determines the quality of our action. The quality of work depends ultimately upon the quality of your mind. You'll hear a little bit about this a little later if we have time to show you a little clip from an interview with Ray Dalio, who was here in Georgetown, met with the Dean last year, just before our first program. The quality of being leads us to become more clear, more detached, and more engaged, more balanced, but also more kind, more wise, more compassionate. And this, it seems to me, is the real formula for success, for human fulfillment, for the productivity which allows for sane, rational, and sustainable development. Meditation, as I said, is often prescribed by physicians, by doctors, by therapists, to deal with our problems. And those problems are piling up and becoming more and more convoluted by the year. Our anxiety, our stress, our compulsive behavior, our depression, our addictions. So meditation deals with problems very directly. Actually, the word meditation and the word medicine have the same have a connection. The connection is med, the prefix med, which means care or attention in the Greek. When you go to a doctor, you hope to receive good care and good attention. When you meditate, you are practicing good care and good attention, beginning with yourself. But it does more than deal with your problems. It develops and deepens our essential human potential. We're very concerned with growth and self-development today, and rightly so. That is what life is about. It's about growth and development. But to understand just how profound and multidimensional our potential is, that's what meditation helps us to discover. Our problems are symptoms. If you go to a doctor, you want immediately to get some relief from painful symptoms, but you also want to make sure those symptoms don't recur. You want to get to the root of the problem. What's causing this? And meditation is a very radical exercise of care and attention. It's a spiritual discipline. It gets to the root cause, and thereby it promotes what we could call total health or well-being, and it sets us free. The truth will set you free. Meditation is a very truthful practice, very real practice. There are three things we're practicing when we meditate in particular, three ways of being, three B's. The first, we could say, is that it allows us to be simple. The great scientific discoveries and intellectual discoveries happen when a mind, usually a great mind, if it's a big problem, perceives the complex problem in a simple way and is able to see through the complexity, which is often caused by ignorance, to see through that to the core simplicity of the question or the challenge. But being simple is not easy. One of our major programs in our community at the moment is teaching meditation to children in schools. And I love meditating. I was in California recently. I love meditating with children, and I meditated with 1st and 7th grade one day. And it is such a beautiful and profound teaching to me and to the teachers themselves, to see how simple meditation is when children practice it. It doesn't mean that they find it easy, but of course they are less complex than we are. They ask less questions. They don't require long introductions before meditation to make it seem worthwhile. Children will just do, in a trusting way, what we offer them to do. And they love it. They love it. And the teachers and the parents recognize the changes in the children very quickly. There's something very wonderful about how they manifest the naturalness and the simplicity of meditation. And what a fantastic gift to give them at the beginning of their lives. So meditation will make us childlike. Jesus actually says, unless you become like a little child, you will not get home. You will not get to your destination. We could say then that this is about coming home to your true self. As we get older, we spin off many fragmentary selves. We build up many layers between ourselves and other people and ourselves and ourselves. We become complex. We have layers of memory and pain and hopes and fears. But in meditation, we cut through that in a very gentle but a very direct and uncompromising way. And we come home to our true self, just as we do with a person we love. When you go home to work, when you go home from work after a stressful and difficult day, if you're lucky enough to have someone at home who's there to loving you and whom you can love, it's that wonderful feeling of coming home and you can lay down the problems and anxieties of the day. Well, meditation is essentially like that. It's coming home to oneself, and one should not underestimate the relevance of love in the practice of meditation, or, of course, in the value system of our lives. Simple means whole, integrated. It means not standing outside of ourselves, observing and analyzing ourselves as if we were objects waiting to be measured and evaluated. In meditation, we don't evaluate our progress. And that would be something that in this program, I think will become clearer and clearer through practice, that this is a wonderful relief from the compulsive evaluation that we are continuously conducting on ourselves, or feel that we are being having conducted on us. So it's not about analyzing or measuring our progress. It's, as children do, it's about enjoying something for its own sake. And how many things do we have in our lives that we enjoy for its own sake? Simple people, however much they are involved with complex work or situations, are people who convince you that they are authentic, that they are trustworthy. And in this interview with Ray Dalio, who you all know, that we'll show over this, in the course of this program over the weeks, we'll take little sections from it, I think you'll see what I mean. A person who has certainly mastered very complex questions and complex changing situations, and yet when he speaks about meditation, you'll see, I think, and feel a kind of authenticity and reality there. The second thing we learn when we meditate is to be still. Equilibrium, balance, always requires a center of gravity. And everything has a center of gravity. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Everything and everyone has this center of gravity. And finding it and learning to rest there a while, that's the work of meditation. But resting means more than relaxation. Meditation is a lot more than relaxation. Relaxation is a byproduct, a very useful byproduct, but it's not the essence of it. In this resting in stillness, we are actually energized, powerfully energized, because we are actually touching an immeasurable source of energy, of pure life and consciousness. And I don't mean something abstract or astral or supernatural. I mean something that is totally embodied in our own reality, something flesh and blood, something that we can say is me, and more than me. So we often use the image of recharging the batteries when we speak about meditation. And that's a good working image. But the more you meditate, I think, the more you go even beyond that image. There's a verse in the Hebrew scriptures, "Be still and know that I am God." So it's this, that knowledge is not an abstract intellectual knowledge, it's an experience, or a relationship. So the stillness we're talking about certainly leads to relaxation and de-stressing, but to something even deeper and more powerful than that. The third being that we learn by meditation is to be silent. And that is quite a relief. It's an escape from the compulsive chatter and channel hopping of our very disordered and distracted minds today. We spend more and more money on medication for dealing with the distractedness or the attention deficits of children and indeed of parents. Attention is the essence of silence, and it's the secret of success in every area of our life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's the quality of your work, or in the spiritual dimension of your life. We have to learn to pay attention, to focus, and attention is maybe a little different from what we think of as concentration. Concentration often suggests, furrowing your brow and really trying very hard. But we can think of attention as being something a little more natural, less effort, and more natural. But it does require some work and practice. It leads to well-being and wholeness. When we pay attention to something, we immediately begin to feel better. The distracted mind, the fragmented mind, is an unhealthy mind and an unhappy mind. I think that's pretty universally acknowledged by all the great traditions. We need attention, of course, to perform any task. Some level of attention is necessary just to do anything. And good attention produces good work and good results. It's also the essential quality of love. So those are the things we could say we practice in the practice of meditation. Silence, stillness, and simplicity. And how do we do that? How do we, as it were, trigger that process? So how do we meditate? We're going to suggest, of course, there are different ways of meditation, and I think all authentic ways or traditions or methods of meditation have something deeply in common, because it is a universal human wisdom. They have attention in common, and they have practice in common. But we're going to introduce you to a very simple way of meditation that we teach it from the Christian tradition, but actually you find the same method in all traditions. And it has the simplicity of being able to be practiced by a child in grade 1, or by somebody on their deathbed, by somebody going through a major personal crisis, or somebody just living in their daily routine. In meditation, we first of all sit still, physically still. Your posture is important, and learning to sit still with your back straight, that's the first thing we have to do. Don't underestimate the importance of your posture, because your posture is a sort of expression of your state of mind as well. Obviously, if you're lounging in a bad, lazy posture, then your mind is going to be following that posture. So if you sit upright, which is the natural posture for attention, then your mind will find it easier to do the work of meditation. So you sit down, you sit physically still as far as you can, and that stillness of body will help to bring you to a stillness of mind. You breathe normally, and there are no very difficult techniques to master in meditation. We don't try to make it more difficult than it is, or more complex than it is. So you breathe normally. There may be some questions we can look at about some of these technical aspects later, but to begin with, just do it. You sit down, you sit still, breathe normally, close your eyes lightly. And closing your eyes helps you to let go of the externality of your consciousness. So you're not looking at things in an objective way. So you begin to make more of an inner journey. You close your eyes lightly. Some people keep them very slightly open, but I would suggest you just close them lightly. And then you begin the work of attention. So what do you pay attention to? Not to your thoughts. Not to your thoughts. Again, one of those early Christian monks in my tradition wrote, meditation, prayer he called it, meditation is the laying aside of thoughts. The laying aside of thoughts. So you're letting go of all your thoughts. I once met a very world-famous physicist who I was speaking at a conference he was speaking at, and he listened to my talk, and he said, I do what you say. He said, I don't necessarily believe in all the other things you said, but he said, I do what you say. He said, when I have a really big problem, I sit down and I stop thinking about it. I stop thinking about it. And I create an open space. And he said, that's what you're talking about, isn't it? So, more or less it is. You lay aside your thoughts. Now, that's easier said than done. But that's the work. To do that work in a gentle but very effective way, we take a single word, a short phrase, a sacred word or a mantra, and we repeat that word continuously in the mind and heart during the time of the meditation. So you could say it's the prayer of one word, or the saying of one word, the repetition of the single word with attention during the time of the meditation, and you stay with the same word during the meditation and from day to day. Couldn't be more simple. A lot happens in that practice, but we have first to get into it and experience it, which is what we'll do now in a minute. Choosing the word that you say is important, because you want to stay with the same word, And over time, the word will begin to become a very real friend to you and part of you, and open up for you this hidden continent of being. The word we recommend is a word, the word Maranatha. Maranatha is the oldest Christian prayer. It's it's a Semitic language in Aramaic. Its literal meaning is "Come, Lord," but we're not thinking about the meaning of it as we say it. And it's a word that actually sounds very similar to mantras in other traditions. So the sound of the word is very effective in calming the mind and being able to say it rhythmically. If you prefer to take a word if you have your own different religious, different spiritual tradition, you can choose a similar word in your own tradition, but many people take this word anyway. The important thing is to stay with the same word. That's the really important thing. If you choose this word, say it as 4 syllables, Ma-ra-na-tha. Ma-ra-na-tha. Don't visualize the word, I suggest, but listen to it as a sound. Release the word, sound the word interiorly, and say it gently, faithfully, continuously, and remember, very important for highly successful business people, you are not going to succeed, I'm afraid. You will succeed by giving up the idea of success. If you don't give up the idea of success, you'll feel that you're a failure, and you won't like that. Nobody likes that, in fact. So avoid this whole idea of success or failure and perfectionism. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being consistent and faithful. Listen to something Ray Dalio says from Slate on that topic later. So you will find that your mind wanders. You will get distracted. Thoughts of the past or the future, anxieties, plans, memories, daydreams, fantasies, imaginary snippets of conversations or things I should have said at that last meeting but I didn't say, and fears about what's going to happen tomorrow. Of course, all of this activity of the mind will continue. Over time, it will be calmed, and your mind will become clearer, and that's a wonderful discovery. But to begin with, be prepared for a certain level of distraction. But don't worry about the distraction, and don't evaluate your meditation on that basis. Sit down, close your eyes, say your word, and then every time you get distracted, just come back to the word. It's really about coming back. That's your progress. That's the paradox. By returning to the word, you are actually making progress. And the rest, the experience will be your teacher. So let's meditate now for a little while. When we meditate with children, we meditate for 1 minute per year of their age. So taking an average of this group, I will say that we'll meditate for 10 minutes because of our time constraint. It will just give you a little taste of it, and later you can increase the amount of time. We would recommend that you meditate every day and work towards meditating every morning and every evening. Begin with about 20 minutes, if you can. If you can't, do it less, but aim for 20 minutes and take it from there. Early morning and early evening are the best times, but you have to be flexible and adapt, of course, to circumstances. In this program, we would like to offer you some support for those who like to develop that practice, a framework for a daily practice morning and evening. One of those, so these are a number of supports we'll be offering, and Greg will speak a little bit more about it as he leads the weekly group here. So the first of those is a weekly group. Very helpful to meditate with others from time to time. We'd also like to offer the idea that you meditate, if you can, a couple of times a week at the center. The meditation at the center at 12:30 every day and at 6 p.m. every day. We'll also offer a couple of short texts every week, a weekly readings and a weekly teaching that we put out on our website. And you can get those directly through an app, the WCCM app on iTunes or from our website. And it also contains has a timer, so you can time your meditation. And because we live in an age of choice, you have two kinds of bell to choose from to time your meditation. And maybe later in the course, in the program, we'll offer an opportunity for a retreat. Or if you go to our website, WCCM.org, you'll see quite a variety of different forms of support, including retreats and workshops and so on. We teach this from the Christian tradition, but we teach it as a universal wisdom. So we're not trying to convert you, but I think there is a qualitative difference in learning to meditate with that sense of a universal wisdom tradition behind it. So why are we offering this program? Not for financial reward or for fame and success. It's literally a free gift, something we freely received and we would like to share with you. But also because our current global crisis is so complex and so imminent that only a radical spiritual wisdom, a new kind of consciousness, a new way of seeing, a new way of understanding is going to steer us through it and avoid at least the worst of its consequences.